Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sean Paige, editor of MonkeyWrenchingAmerica.com.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to Colorado from out-of-staters. I live here now. I'm a recovering Washingtonian, so it's great to live here, let me tell you that. The focus of the panel today is called No More Cylinders, How the Big Green Agenda Stands in the Way of Energy Independence. But I think for the purposes of clarity, that the two questions really have to be separated. Cylinder and other green energy boondoggles are obviously a problem in that they're a massive waste of taxpayer dollars and misallocation of precious and limited resources. And because they represent the hubris of Washingtonians attempting to override the logic of the market for political reasons and purposes. But I would submit that the much bigger obstacle to energy independence and self-sufficiency is an iron triangle of interest groups that are leading the anti-carbon fuels, anti-capitalism crusade. That iron triangle consists of government regulators who love to regulate, not surprisingly. It consists of politicians who love to find something useful to do with themselves, and sometimes that involves regulating and responding to perceived or real crises. And of course, the most powerful lobbying force in America today, which is the army of professional green extremists, litigators, and agitators whose sole purpose is monkey-wrenching the economy and the energy sector. This lobby, what I call the environmental anxiety industry, and its fellow travelers in academia and mass media represent the single largest obstacle to increased American energy self-sufficiency through the responsible development of domestic energy assets. Their tools of the trade are saturation litigation, manipulation and domination of the so-called public process, relentless agitation, and of course indoctrination, in which they have willing accomplices in the public education system in this country. The 3 points of the triangle, politicians, regulators, green groups, share a symbiotic relationship that has led to their unprecedented success in recent time. It's been successes for them, but not for average Americans and for American businesses who find themselves living in a state of perpetual energy anxiety and economic uncertainty as the country lurches from energy crisis to energy crisis, from energy fad to energy fad, by choosing the pie in the sky over the tried and the true. These groups are working every day to block our access to oil, coal, natural gas, uranium, the fuels that generate more than 80% of the country's energy. They even want to tear down dams and eliminate hydropower in some cases. And now, though they profess a love for solar, wind, and so-called renewable energies, they're now turning on those energy sources too. If they hurt birds, if they hurt tortoises, desert tortoises, and so on. It's time that we in the freedom movement put more time and resources into stripping away the warm and fuzzy veneer of these groups and exposing the relentlessly extreme, economically damaging underbelly of the movement. The movement is no longer about protecting wild places and saving bunnies and butterflies, if it ever was about that. It's morphed over time into an all-out attack on America's quality of life, on consumer choice, on property rights, and on the free enterprise system that makes it all possible. The conservationism of John Muir has melded over time with Marx and Malthus to birth a new green movement that's determined to revolutionize American life, forcing us all to live environmentally correct lifestyles by sabotaging our energy sector and our economy. This sabotage, this what we call monkey wrenching, or what they even call monkey wrenching, only rarely takes the form these days of violence or firebombs or that kind of stuff, or vandalism. Today it's really done with legal briefs, lobbying power, and more civilized means. But the effects are nonetheless terrible for the U.S. economy and the energy sector, which are interconnected. We in the freedom movement need to change that by exposing the economic agenda lurking behind the green curtain. We need to create a new alliance between consumers and producers, bridging a disconnect that allows Greens to wage war on miners, ranchers, drillers, commercial fishermen, and loggers, while the people who consume all these products stand on the sidelines and let this happen. So we need to reconnect those dots between those people in our society who produce things and those people who consume things once again. And we need to confront the mass media. You know, the biggest media bias that I see out there is the pro-green media bias. Every green group is good, and it's crusading, and it wants to save everything, and every industry is bad, and the people. And in between are all the people caught in the middle, the utility ratepayers, the Westerners who are living in towns that are dying all over the West right now because of the war on energy and resource-based industries. Those are some of the things that we'll be able to talk to today. Thank you again for coming. I'm really honored to be able to facilitate this panel discussion because there's a lot of people amongst our speakers today who I respect greatly. So let's begin with introducing them and letting them have a say really quickly. Our first speaker today is Michael Barrera. He's the regional director of the LIBRE initiative. He previously served as president of the Business Information Clearinghouse and also president and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Prior to that job, Mr. Barrera served as the National Ombudsman for the United States Small Business Administration. In 2008, Latin Business Magazine named Mr. Barrera as one of the top 100 influential Hispanics in business. In 2007, he was named by DiversityBusiness.com as one of America's top diversity advocates, a list that included former President Bill Clinton and Oprah Winfrey. He's a great fighter for freedom. I'm really glad to have on the panel today Michael Barrera.
Oh, okay. They changed the thing on me here a bit.
Speak and then sit.
I really appreciate being an opportunity to speak about energy, and I actually come from a business standpoint. I'm not an expert on policies, but I think we can talk about how it affects people. I think right now when you look at alternative energy, I think the current administration has taken the Pelosi approach. Let's dream it, let's wish it, let's fund it, let's tax it, and we'll figure out the costs later. You know, when it comes to energy, I think about my father, and I think he inadvertently summed up what energy is all about. We were sitting around TV one day talking about the good old days. I think we're watching Bonanza or Adam 12 or something like that, for those of you who remember that. And we're talking about the good old days. My dad looked at us, he goes, shook his head, you guys are crazy. He goes, the good old days didn't have air conditioning. And he goes, I don't want to go back to those bad old days without air conditioning in my car or my home. And he kind of summed up what America wants. We talk about energy, but what we're talking about is really power. I call it turn-on ability at a very fair price that we can use it for our businesses, our homes, our churches, our hospitals, even our government buildings, our cars, our planes. We've got to have energy that's available, reliable, that we can count on. And right now we're starting to see a big push towards alternative energy. And everybody, no one here will disagree that we have to start looking at other alternatives. We always have to sum up and supplement different things. That's the good business model. But we can't have it replace what we have. That is not a good model. Because you look at the rate of practical usefulness for the alternative energy, the cylindrical types, its cost, its storage capabilities, and its ability to adequately supply power, it just isn't practical. Other practicalities right now. We keep hearing how green energy creates jobs. Really? I just read something in the Nevada Journal put together a story. They talked about how we spent $1.3 billion on solar, wind, and all these different types of alternative energy. It only created 288 jobs. $40 million per job. We can't afford that type of practicality. Also, you look at the things, look at the jobs like Solyndra on all these other grants. What are those jobs now? They're not even in business. I think Governor Romney made a good point last time. We spent $90 billion. You want teachers, why don't you put the money into that? That could have created 2 million jobs for teachers. We got to be practical about what we're doing. And also, we're starting to see a lot more mandates on traditional energy sector, which is job killers. Right now, we keep wanting to put these mandates, and it's going to raise the cost of utilities. And Amy, my good friend, is going to be here, and she's going to talk about some of the practicalities here in Colorado itself. But as you keep raising prices, a practical business person's got to make decisions. You raise the prices of energy considerably, that's going to affect jobs. Because he can't spend like the government does, and I'll keep writing checks and I'll cash him later with your money. It's his money. It's his money for his businesses. So you keep raising prices, either wages will go down, jobs will not occur, or he's going to pass the cost to the customer. And when you pass the cost on to the American families, you're affecting disposable income. And you're affecting disposable income from the business itself, and you're affecting the disposable income directly, because you put these more mandates on. They're going to raise prices in the homes, hospitals, churches, so everybody's going to be affected. I'm going to kind of close it up right now, but right now, in closing, renewable energy, we do need to know about it. But we cannot continue to go and take the attitude, I don't know what I don't know. We've got to know what's happening. And we can't afford to take, like I said, the dream it, hope it, tax it, spend it, and we'll figure it out later approach. I look forward to the conversation today. We have a great panel. Thank you for having me here.